Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome Wednesday night. Let me just talk to my Facebook friends because the rest of them aren't listening right now. Good evening, Facebook. Oh, hey, good evening, church, by the way. We have fun on Wednesday night, Facebook friends, just so you know. And some of you may be catching up because you're working right now, or maybe you're sick and you're tuning in. So look, we pray about you guys as well, too, because we sure hate to see people not able to be with us in worship. If you're staying at home because it's convenient, this is one of the best services, and I hope you'll come and be a part of it. And I know the people that are here know that we have a wonderful time on Wednesday nights. So, as I said last week, we're going to jump into our prayer time at the end of worship. But for the meantime, I want to invite you to Psalm 39. Psalm 39 is where we're going to be tonight. I want to talk to you about one of the hardest things in the world. So I used to play basketball a little bit. You wouldn't know it by the skill set that is greatly diminished, okay? But I used to actually play basketball. And one of the important things about playing basketball is not exclusive to how many three-pointers you can hit. The coach actually, any good coach, values defense. And that means guarding the person, keeping them away from getting an easy basket, defending and things like this. But I've found that I had to guard some tough guys in my basketball days, but this is the hardest one I've ever had to guard. It's my own tongue. And if you're honest, and you'll be tonight, I hope you'll be like, yeah, that's me too. So let me share a little story about the struggle that is guarding your tongue. And that's going to be our sermon title tonight. So a woman goes to her pastor. This is not a reference to anybody at Landmark in case some of you start digging and going, was it you? Was it you? A woman goes to her pastor and confesses that she's been guilty of spreading harmful and hateful rumors around the community. Oh my goodness, nobody's ever done that, right? She knows it was wrong. She's got some remorse and she feels horrible for the way she conducted herself. The pastor then gives her a piece of advice and she's serious about, hey, what do I need to do? And he says, good, I'm glad you asked. I want you to go grab a bag full of chicken feathers. And I want you to go from house to house throughout the entire community, and I want you to place one of those chicken feathers on every doorstep. She said, Pastor, if you think that's what I need to do, then that's what I'm going to go do. And sure enough, she did. And he said, by the way, when you get done, report back. She reports back. Empty basket. I did what you asked me to. He says, great. Well, we're only halfway there. And she looks a little befuddled, and she's like, wait, what do you mean? He then instructs the woman to go back to the very same houses and track down every feather that you left at those houses, put them in a basket, and then return it to me. Of course, you can figure what she's probably thinking. There's absolutely no way I can do that. Pastor, the wind has been blowing, and they're just every which way, and there's no way I'd be able to collect all of them and bring them back to you. And he says, yes, they are everywhere, and so are your words. You can be forgiven, but you can't bring them back. There's some great gold in that illustration. It is one of the most important things for any person that calls himself a follower of Jesus Christ to do. Whether it's in your very own home and your kids are watching, and maybe it's how you address them, or kids, how we address our parents. It goes both ways. How we address each other as husband and wife, how we address each other within a church body. Guarding our words. If we would have a defensive mindset, we talked about demons the other week. If we would have a defensive mindset before we ever had to go toe to toe, we would be better prepared for when the opposition really comes. And maybe, just maybe, come away with it in a lot better shape. This brings us to David, who is the writer of Psalm 39, as most believe. And in David's writing, and I'm not going to give you a lot of verses tonight. We're going to jump over to James, and you can look over to James here in a little bit. James chapter 3 is where we're going to be looking here shortly. But we're going to start off in Psalm 39, and I just want you to stand for Psalm 39 and 1. And let's just read it and look at it for what it says so that we can know the importance of God's guidance in guarding our tongue, or guiding your tongue. God's word says in verse 1, I said, I will take heed to my ways that I sin not with my tongue. I will keep my mouth with a bridle while the wicked is before me. You can be seated. So I'm going to give you two simple points tonight with a couple subpoints, all right? There's going to have to be, if you want to do anything and you want to go against the grain of life, okay? So Can I just be honest? My first R tonight is your resolve. You have got to put your toe in the sand, draw a line, and say no. I have been very diligent. Chad, by the way, thank you for reminding me of what I've been missing. Chad has been very gracious to send me Dairy Queen pictures. Me and the Queen are on a split right now, okay? And I have literally been working hard not to eat bad. And the problem with Texas, I thought I was leaving good food in Louisiana. Well, we got good food in East Texas too. And one of my weaknesses, my kryptonite, is Dairy Queen, and has been for many years. The good thing about South Louisiana is there's only really one or two around that I knew of. But the problem with East Texas is they're on every corner of every daggone town. Whataburger is about the only place I see more of than Dairy Queen. Whataburger doesn't faze me as much. Dairy Queen, yeah, I'm in trouble. So here's the thing. I've had to resolve in myself, I can't do this. I just can't go there. I literally was coming in from Tyler today. I know where the one is. There's like 3 of them you pass before you get home. You go here, there's one in this part of Tyler, there's one here on the outskirts of Tyler. This is how bad it is, right? You know where everything's at. And so I have to just tell myself, Pete, we're not gonna do this. We can't afford to do this. You have to resolve yourself. And I literally almost called my wife, but I got busy with some other relatives on my way home that I needed to catch up with and say, talk me out of it, talk me out of it. None of you have that weakness, good for you, your pastor not so much. And so I have to stick to what I know as I resolve to, okay? We can only imagine in David's life what made him make this resolve. We know, and I'm using this a little bit as a prelude because we are gonna talk a lot about David for the next several Wednesdays. It's gonna be a good series in dealing with spiritual warfare. And this man understood the battles from his own mistakes to mistakes that others did to him and the grievances and everything. But when we read our text, David just said, I will. Now what comes after that really is irrelevant to this point, because once you say I will, you're making a determination in your heart and in your life. I'm not gonna do that, I will do this. And he just basically lays the smack down on what he's talking about here. And so you get the picture, if you drop down to verse 3, of what he was fighting. My heart was hot within me. Anybody ever been hot within you? You know what I mean? It wasn't that you took the thermometer in your head and said, let's check the fever. Oh no, he's in trouble. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the fact he was plumb mad. He was livid. He was full of heat. He was fixing to blow, okay? Let's just call it like it is. And I'm sure everything he wanted to do was not exactly of the Christian nature. He was very disgusted, very frustrated. No doubt there was some things being done to him and said about him that he didn't appreciate. That's easy to speculate based on what we know of his life. But in this writing, we don't have anything specific as far as a timeline. I mean, we could speculate, but that's irrelevant to this, because this isn't just about David. This is about us tonight as well and what we can glean from this. My heart was hot within me while I was musing. The fire burned. Then spake I with my tongue. So basically he said, I'm not gonna do this, and I did. Anybody ever done that before? I'm not gonna go there, and then you do. And then you go, oh man, what was I doing? What was I thinking? Why did I behave in such a way? That's what happened in his life. And that's what can easily happen in ours. Watching others seemingly get away with it, whatever it is hard. And it's human to get a little fired up and mad about it, even to want to lash out and say things or act in ways and do things. So for us to guard our tongues properly, we've got to start with a resolve. I like the old hymn that sometimes we sing, I am resolved no longer to linger. So basically we're making a resolution inside of us to no longer not be active in that case. But in this case, we've been too active and we don't want to be active with our tongues anymore. So, because we know what happens when we get our lives in trouble. So here's the David understands. I'm skipping down and you can read it for yourself. But in verse 7, David realizes I can't do this by myself, because I try to do this and I let my anger out and I get mad. So he says in verse 7, and now, Lord, what wait I 4. My hope is in thee, or in you. My hope is in you. If your hope is resolved in your resolve, that's not going to work, guys. Not a lick. I can do this. I can. And you can. But what makes our can work is not ourselves. The resolve has to start within us, but what's the power that gives us the resolve to do the things that we do? Not in me and not in you. Don't kid yourself. Do I need to remind anybody what Philippians 4:13 says? I can do all things. There's a resolve, Paul. How? Through Christ. There's the power. Oh, you got to be the vessel. You got to be the vehicle to make it, to be willing. But it's going to be the power of God in you that makes things really go. Okay? So understanding these things is critical. He says, my hope, our only hope of keeping this resolve lies in the help of our God. Hope is an expectation. David expects God to handle the matter better than any words from his tongue could. So here's my question when I come to that, and this is what I had to ask myself. Do I trust God enough to give him my resolve? Do I trust God enough? Okay, it's Wednesday night. I'm going to speculate. You're here. You made a commitment where this week was probably not easy. You had a bajillion things you could be doing, but you put it in park on a Wednesday night and said, I want to come to church. Or I want to listen and hear what God has for me to learn. Okay, great. Congratulations. So you're there, but you're not all the way there. Because listening is only half the battle. Now you take what you gain and you put it into some form of plan and action. I mean, we can know what we need to do, but knowing what we need to do and not doing it, the Bible said, is called sin, according to the book of James. So he didn't know what to do good, do it then not. I mean, so here we are. So it's interesting that he uses the picture of the bridle. Do I need to ask anybody what that looks like? I mean, everybody has a concept to some degree about what a bridle does. Does not a bridle help control the horse? Or that's what we usually see. Whatever the beast of burden is, we have the bridle in. It means we've got to put our tongues under control. Now, how many of you have done that very well by yourself? No help needed. I can control my tongue. Look, I love having conversations with couples. Because when I do, not only do they learn, if Lisa's in the room, they're going to learn everything about us pretty quick, okay? Because we don't usually hide things, and to a fault, okay? We're not going to go there. There's a lot of stories that somehow always seem to get told when you're eating out at places and you're visiting people. It's like, why did you tell them that about us? That's supposed to be like down in the way depths of like 5 years down the road, But anyway, no, we got to, hey, I don't know you very well. Let me tell you this. That's another conversation. They're speaking of bridle in your tongue, right? But I love when couples get together because those are there. Hey, remember when you did? And they're like, no, don't tell the preacher that. And then it comes out anyway because it's almost like fuel. So it's hilarious. And I have such laughs in these conversations because we can't control our tongues. And you guys know it and I know it. We need all the help. We need Tongues Anonymous group, okay? And we all need to just sign up and find some duct tape and just, and see how long it lasts. I think I told you before, but I'll tell you again. There's a man that you don't know. We'll call him, his name's Bobby. Bobby, I only played golf with Bobby once, but I was at my church in Mississippi, and Bobby pulled out, and he unzipped that golf bag, and he pulled out the duct tape, and I just laughed, and I'm like, what are you doing with duct tape on a golf course? He said, watch this, preacher. You put it over his mouth. We hadn't hit one shot yet. I said, well, at least you're honest, okay? So we had a good time with that. No, when we look over in James, I told you I'll look over in James. Let's look at James chapter 3 for a moment. James is so good, and he's so pointed as God leads him to write the words that we needed to hear in our lives. And he had no idea 2023 Pete would be preaching on what needed to be said from this writing, but it's so powerful. Hebrews, James, okay? Hebrews, James, towards the end of your New Testament there. And I just want to put it in park here for a moment. We got a couple minutes, so let's just read this and let it digest a little bit. My brethren, so right away we know we're talking to people that are believers. This isn't lost people that don't have a grip on Christ. This is people that are supposed to be your, hey, we're walking with Jesus kind of crowd, right? But my brethren, Be not many masters, knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation. Now watch. For in many ways we offend all. Well, there we go. We just call it like it is. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man. You've got the maturity. You've learned how to use your tongue perfectly and rightly. But that's not any of us, if we're honest. It's very few. We don't struggle with our words during a given day. The same is a perfect man and able also to bridle the whole body. So we see that picture of the bridle in verse 2. Behold, and this is such a great picture and illustration. Behold, we put bits in the horse's mouth that they may obey us. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I don't need to illustrate on this. And we turn about their whole body. Behold, also the ships. So we're giving pictures of large animal, large boat here, small bit. You're going to see in verse 4, small rudder. So ships, which though they be great, they're huge, are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm, or rudder as we would call it, whithersoever the governor or the captain or the pilot is navigating. Even so, the tongue is a little member. It's so small. I mean, it's just this little piece of muscle up there. And boy, it can get pretty muscular at times. It can flex when you don't want it to. And the tongue is a little member, and it boasteth great things. Behold, how great a matter a little fire kindleth. And then it just kind of gets prolific on that thought. The tongue is a fire, a world of sin or iniquity, as James writes. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature. And look, this is why it's the way it is. It is set on fire of hell. What's interesting as we read this, tongues can start such a large blaze with such a little bit of effort. Why? Well, their very nature is of the ways of hell. They just know how to be so flammable. There is no part of your body that can do more damage in this world than your very tongue. That's how serious we need to regard. That's what James is pointing out to us. Oh, no, I've used my fist before, and I've done this, and I've used my foot before. But how many people have lost their careers, have lost strategic battles? Loose lips sink ships. You might be familiar with the phrase. That's why he had to caution people with such a saying. How much has been lost because of our own words? It's horrendous when you think about it. So it's not just going to take a little resolve. It's going to take a very strong resolve, not in self, but in Christ, so that we do what we saw back in our text. What is that? Don't sin. Don't sin. Don't give in to sin. That's what it said there. I said, I will take heed to my tongue that I sin not. And we don't want to be guilty of that. Why do you put such an emphasis on this, Pastor? Good question. That's why we go to point number 2. Not just the resolve, but let's talk about the reasons for guarding our tongues. Let me tell you, let's think about some good things. I've kind of been on the little negative side. Let's think about some good things about our tongues. One of the great things about our tongues and the words that we use is it gives praise when used properly over pain instead of pain. We can give praise. You know, the easy thing is to say, hey, you could have done a better job. But the nice thing might be to say, hey, let me help you with this. You're doing a good job there. But let me see if I can't come alongside and show you a little bit. You see the difference in just a couple ways, the way we say things? But boy, we're so quick to be hateful sometimes and judgmental and argumentative about things that we can't see the burden. Now look, if you've done it for 10, 15 times, it can get old after a while. And yeah, sometimes if it's kids or maybe you're an employer and you're dealing with employees, and sometimes you have to do that. But sometimes the instructive and constructive way to do things would be to use our tongues in a way. But of course, most of all to God. Praising God, glorifying God, honoring God. I got thinking about, instead of painting others with our tongues, why not praise and what praise would look like in a world where we don't hear a lot of praise. We hear a lot of pain. That person over there, you wouldn't believe what they said. That person, they did this. That individual, they did this. What do you think if we didn't have all the negative talk, all the ugly talk? You know, C-SPAN is boring. Anybody ever tried to watch more than like 2 minutes of C-SPAN? If you have, you're way better than me, okay? If I did and I was worried about an important vote, it would be turn the volume down, just wait till they tally up the votes. Y'all know what I'm talking about? If you ever watched it, I never did. And what was funny is I don't know if they still have, didn't they have like 2 C-SPANs? They had like a C-SPAN 2. People want to watch more Congress. God bless. There's some people out there that really love that stuff. I can't watch a lot of negative toxicity. I mean, you know, some of you, Jerry, who wants to watch that, you know? Yeah, rip them to shreds, you know? I mean, I'm like, I don't have to do, never mind. I was going to say something about Baptist people, but I'm not going to say that, okay? But the reason I said that about C-SPAN is it's boring enough. Can you imagine these politicians on Capitol Hill not talking ugly? Somebody gets up and says, you know, it's an election year, and I know that me and my opponent are running. They've done a pretty good job. I think I can do a good job too. They're not going to win the election that way, are they? What people want to hear that don't want to be educated, by the way, and actually see where these people stand, is they want to hear the Jerry show in the middle of the political arena. No, this person's sorry, they can't do this. You know what, I dug up some dirt on them and blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm talking about? That's how you win elections. We don't know what they stand on or what they believe. They just talk a good talk, and they make these other people sound bad. Put 10 up on a stage, and they're all fighting for their words. We're getting towards that time again, and it's just going to be more insanity. And we won't even talk about lies that people use their tongues for, but I can't imagine no ugliness in these forums of debate. It's just disagreement politely. That would be an interesting concept, wouldn't it? The poor media, oh my goodness. The hate networks. And whether you sit way over here on the ultra-conservative right or whether you're wicked liberal left, I mean, I got that backwards, by the way I'm doing it. I did that for your benefit, not mine. But you get the idea, and just rah, 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 rah. It's just more barking all the time. And a bunch of pit bulls, you know. And I used to watch a couple of these guys even do sports talk. I can't stand it. These people are so hateful. And their tongues are so malicious. And we just keep watching and tuning in. Man, I wonder what they're going to say today about how much they hate this or how much they badmouth this and that. You know, I feel bad for people that, there are people, I'm just going to put it in park for a moment. You know what we're supposed to do for our presidents, whether they're of our party affiliation or not? What's the Bible say? Pray for them, right? You could say, well, I don't agree with them. Then pray for them that they see the things that need to be seen. Or they're getting a lot of grief because of the stands they take for maybe the good things. Pray for them then too. But we're quick to just thrush. You know, churches are some of the worst people at that, if you'd be honest. And we're just root everybody on, and it's so malicious. We're supposed to pray for our people in leadership, and it's ridiculous how ugly. And we'll watch their podcasts, and we'll watch these things, and these people are just so venomous. It's not Christian. I do believe that you're allowed to speak truth, but I think there's a right way to go about it and a wrong way to go about it. And I think if you'll read the Bible, you'll see that. Churches, let's just talk about the churches in this different alter universe. If you're looking at it that way of what it would look like if we considered our words and guarded our tongues. I think people in churches on the whole, you'd see so much praise. There wouldn't be so much time for gossip and ugliness because we're too busy lifting up the name of the Lord and glorifying him and praying. No. We don't want to spend a lot of time blah, 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 blah. Let's just go for 2 hours on the altar. Everybody ready? I mean, well, look at the time, Pastor. I'd like to, but, you know, and you get the idea. Maybe even our preaching would get a little bit better from our pulpits, and that's me as a pastor and other pastors, because we would spend more time praying and devoting ourselves and less time blah, blah, blah about the world that we are not going to be able to fix on our own. So give praise instead of pain. Second thing I think we could glean from this is what we see in our text there, and that's pointing people to Christ. One of the things that it's encouraged here in this verse, I will keep my mouth while the wicked is before me. The wicked there is the lost. You know, one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard is most of us have people that we know that are unchurched and maybe even without Christ as their Savior. And sooner or later, if I haven't already, let me just let you know something now, okay? Trevor, you and I are buddies, right? Okay, today. But if, I might make you mad tomorrow, man, and then you might go, Mom, Dad, I don't know about that preacher anymore. It's okay. I appreciate you, buddy. But you know, here's the reality, okay? Trevor gets mad about the preacher. I'm just saying that hypothetically, buddy. I know you're not going to do this. But you know what a lot of church people will do? They'll go to work. They're around their friends that don't know Jesus, don't know anything about God. You don't invite them to church, and now you're going to throw the pastor under the bus. Or maybe not even the pastor, but one of your church buddies. Do you see the problem with that? Hey, by the way, you still want to go to church? No, they're not coming to church. They don't want to be around what you just talked about in such an ugly way. And people will do this in the name of, what do we call it? I got to get this off my chest. Yeah, that sounds like a spirit-led thing if I've ever heard it, you know. While the wicked is before me. Let me give you some marks of a good Christian. How many times do you remember Apostle Paul? You ever remember any time he was specifically smothered by church people only? I can preach on this, but this is a side note, so let me just preach for a moment. Paul loved being around lost people. Study his life and you'll see that. By the way, we regard him as one of the best Christians we read in the Bible, so it's okay to be in the world, just don't be of the world, right? Paul didn't talk like the rest of them. He didn't act like the world, but he lived amongst the world. He knew how to do it in a godly fashion. So it's critical. And when you're with them and you're going to deal with people, you're going to pick up their tongues if you're not careful. You're going to pick up. If they use profanity a lot, sooner or later, you hang around these guys long enough, you're going to start spitting these words too. We learn this culture. It's learned behavior. But if we do what Jesus told us to do and to shine our light before men that they may see our good works, and because they see the Christian aspects in our life, they can glorify their Father which is in heaven, Matthew chapter 5. So this is what we're trying to do here. The lost need Jesus. Would everybody agree with me on this? Everybody knows the lost need Jesus. How are they going to hear unless somebody goes and tells them, Romans tells us. And they're going to have to hear it because they got a preacher, and that's not talking about the word pastor, it's talking about us as believers sharing the good news. The what news? The good news. What is good that can come out of our mouth? The goodness of God. That's what people really need to know. Man, there's a long line, brother, of a sister, of people lining up. Hey, let me tell you about all life's woes and problems and junk and why I don't like this person and why I don't like that person and why I don't like our president. Buddy, you got to wait in line. You can't cut in line, okay? There's a big old line of this. Let's get over to the line over here that want to brag on Jesus. Oh, wait a minute. Number 2, paging number 2. We had number 1 a minute ago, but that was like 20 minutes ago. We hadn't seen anybody got number 2? You see where I'm going? We got a long line of haters. But where's the people that want to just tell people about Jesus and brag on his goodness? This is what our communities need. Can I preach for Wednesday night for a moment? But if we can't practice this when we're amongst ourselves inside these walls the right way, how are we going to go out into the world of the lost and do a better job? Man, the shade days of church life should be well gone. And I tell people, as I've told everybody, make sure when you have these conversations, I'm mad at so-and-so. Why are you mad at so-and-so? Well, they stole my parking place. Come on. This is really the biggest thing to get mad about? I've had people leave a church because somebody parked in their parking space. Chad knows I'm telling the truth. This is the world we live in. And it shouldn't be. But if you live, no wonder your tongue probably gets you in trouble because you're harboring some things that you need to deal with. People, let's point people to Christ. Let's give people Jesus. Let's make people see Christ in us. That they say, I want what you've got, Pete, because what you got, I know I don't have. You just exude positivity. Something about you doesn't fit with everybody else that I live with or walk around with. I want what you got. Nobody says that anymore because too much the church is trying to dummy it down. We don't need to dummy it down. We need to be pointing people to Christ, living the life, talking it up, letting people know there's true hope. Because everybody in this world is filled with dismay. Everybody you can talk to, and if you're a child of God, you're going to run into some of this in your life too. Okay? How do I get better? Well, Brother Johnny comes up and says, Pete, I know exactly what you're going through. And he tells me a half hour of his gloom, despair, and agony on him. Guess what? Doing a duet just makes it worse. It don't make it better, right? But we think, hey, I'll just tell you. Now, look, there's one thing in saying, hey, look, Connie, I went through what you're going through, and I'm sorry. And we don't spend so much time talking about why my life's horrible. Sometimes it's almost like we're in a competition whose life can be worse, you know? But that's not, but Connie, I know what you're talking about. I've been there once. But you know, I turned it over to God, and Jesus got me through, and I started reading this, and I started following Christ, and the Bible told me, you see where I'm going? It's not on Pete anymore. I gave Pete about 10 seconds to get my foot in the door, but now it's all about Jesus. And then Connie starts going, well, I thought that's where I was, but I wanted that. I thought I was doing it this, but I want that. This is how we point people to Christ. What did John the Baptist say that was so profound? Remember what happened when he needed to get people following Christ instead of him? He's going to have to increase. So guess what I've got to do? Decrease. Less Pete, more Jesus. Less you, more Jesus. This is what makes the world a better place. This is what's going to fill up our church, by the way. Man, if we had 20 more programs, if we had 50,000 more hogwash, those are all blessings. But I've seen churches have $500,000 and, don't mean hill of beans. People that love the Lord and want to talk about Jesus and his goodness, woo, man, you get a church like that, now you're cooking. All right, am I allowed to get excited on Wednesday night? I hope so. Last one. Give praise instead of pain. These are our reasons. Point people to Christ. And the last thing I want you to see, practice makes perfect. Remember I talked about in the book of James, this is the perfect man. You want to get to that mature, solid individual that doesn't just fly off the seat of your pants with blah. Here's the thing. You're going to get angry. God already knows it. Remember what he told us? Be angry, just don't sin. Be angry, sin not. He says, I know you're human. This is what we talk about. No, you're not allowed to be human. God knows you're human. Quit dismissing the fact he knows you got a sin nature. No ain't no point in hiding that. But you just don't have to walk in that flesh. You can walk in the spirit. That's what he involves. So be angry, sin not. And we know that talks about some things and how we address people, even dealing with our spouses. Don't let the sun go down on your anger, and relationships and such like that. So in my anger, in resolve to God, I will not do what I don't need to do. That's what we tell ourselves. Practice makes perfect. When I get angry, in resolve to God, I will not gossip. Well, I'm mad. They said that about me. I'm going to tell you something bad about them. Yeah, that's going to fix everything. We missed an acre. Go ahead and torch that acre while we're torching the other 39. Do you see the ridiculousness in that conversation? We want to win so bad that we don't care who loses in the end. And it's always Christ in the end. And he doesn't lose in the end game, but so many people are lost in the battles of life because of the way we conduct ourselves. Practice makes perfect. I'm not going to gossip. I'm not going to slander others because I'm going to guard my tongue, and in doing so, I'm going to guard every word that comes out of my mouth. I'm going to catch it before it catches me. This includes not only what we speak, but I want you to think about the worst words that we ever deal with. And they're not the words that you and I think of. Some of the worst words are never spoken at all. You might find them in an email. You might find them in a text message, or even worse, you might find them on social media. Don't you love people that just are mad at the world, and so they just put a blank blah out there as a dig? I'm just mad, so I'm just going to blow this out there. The Bible says if I got a problem with somebody, I should go to them one-on-one. No, I'm going to put it on Facebook because that always works better. and then you get those people coming in, and what people don't know is you got church members talking about each other, and they don't even know it. Hey, who did this to you? I'll tear them up for you, man. And they may be sitting next to the guy last week in church. It's ridiculous how fleshly we can become if we're not careful. Practice makes perfect. So what do I need to do? I need to be careful when I type. How many of you, I won't ask you. No, come on. Since my brother, Mr. Michael Constantine, insists, how many of you have had this well-written dissertation on your social media post only to realize, nope, and you finally just back. You know what I'm talking about? If you don't admit it, you're going to come before God sooner or later. I've wanted to so many times. And the problem is you're right, but if you do it, you're wrong. You're not going to solve the problem. You're going to make it worse. Because the curious minds want to know. Ooh, and then you get those people that put the popcorn, meme on, their GIF. They're waiting. This is going to be suspenseful. I can't wait to see everything just blow up on Facebook. People love this junk. Why? By the way, you go to their profile. Hey, pastor of so-and-so Baptist Church. Really? Boy, you just acted real Christ-like in this way. It's foolish. God told us through Psalm, David's writing, don't do it. Don't do it. So tomorrow when you get ready to type it, okay? Miss Jan's going to sneak in my office. Miss Jan, thank God you came in here. I was fixing to send something I shouldn't. Thank you for embarrassing me, coming in and catching me doing this, okay? Whatever it takes. We've all been there. If you're being real, don't do it. It's not going to make it work. Practice makes perfect. Because what happens is you sharpen that and you sharpen it, and eventually you go, this isn't worth it. There's a right way to do this and a wrong way, and I'm going to keep it to God. When we practice trusting God with our tongues, our words, we find the evil that words can bring is lessened. And eventually it's not even a part of our vocabulary anymore. What a change. Why? It started with some resolve. I'm not going to do it anymore. I've been doing it too long. Tired of giving it. By the way, when I act in such ways, who gets the glory? God? We know who gets the glory. Are we really here to give the devil his glory? I pray not. So we're going to have a time of invitation, and we invite you to just have a little talk with Jesus, as the old song says. You and God, just one-on-one. You can pray in your pew. You can walk down in front to the altar. That's your call. But I would dare say anybody that comes tonight and walks out saying, I know I should have done something about the way I'm at, but where I'm at, but I didn't. That's not good. That's not healthy. That's not what God wants. I'm available to pray with you, and there's other preachers and people that would be glad to pray with you here to show you Christian love. But I want to remind you as we close, words hurt, but words can help. Perhaps it's time to own up to the wrongs in our words. Seek forgiveness from God. Maybe seek forgiveness from somebody we know that we've been wronging. Maybe somebody we've harmed. I'm just going to tell you, you don't need to go find you a big old bag of chicken feathers. Just turn it over to God, and he'll take care of the rest. Talk to the Lord. Honor him. Let your words in the next couple minutes be God-honoring. Seek forgiveness, repentance. And if you don't know Christ, above all, trust in him as your Savior. That may be the missing link. That's where you need to start. And we can help you with that. We can point you, as we talked about, to Christ. Let's stand as we have this time of him. What song shall we sing, Austin?
504 Without Him.